David McAlister.
I set this story down, if possible, to prepare a way of escape for the next victim. My own case, I know, is hopeless. My name is Edward George Eden. I lost my mother when I was 3 years old, and my father when I was 5. My uncle, George Eden, then adopting me as his own son. At his death, he left me about £500, and through his posthumous generosity, I became a medical student at University College, London. I lodged at 11A University Street. I was taking a pair of shoes to be mended when I first encountered the little old man. He was staring at the number on the door as I opened it. His countenance immediately assumed an expression of amiability. "You come," he said, "apt to the moment. I had forgotten the number of your house. How do you do, Mr. Eden?" I was a little astonished at his familiar address. "Wonder who the deuce I am, eh? A friend, let me assure you. Come and lunch with me, Mr. Eden." I was not so old that an old man might not treat me to a lunch, so I consented. Over lunch I took a better note of his appearance. His face was wrinkled, his shriveled lips fell over a set of false teeth. His white hair was thin, and his shoulders were rounded and bent. Watching him, I could not help but observe that he too was taking note of me. "And now," said he, as we lit our cigarettes, "I must tell you of the business in hand. I am an old man, and it happens that I have money that I must presently be leaving, and never a child have I to leave it to. I have come to this conclusion at last," he fixed his eyes on my face, "that I will find some young fellow, healthy in body and healthy in mind, and make him my heir. Give him all that I have." He repeated, "Give him all that I have." I tried to seem disinterested. "There are conditions, of course. He must, for instance, take my name." "And do I understand," I said, "that I—" "Yes," he said, almost fiercely. You! He had chanced to hear of me, he said, from Professor Hasler, as a typically sound and sane young man. It was Friday in Whitsun week before he came to a decision. He seemed more bowed than when I had first seen him. "Everything is satisfactory, Mr. Eden," he said. "And this night of all nights you must dine with me and celebrate your accession." I remember the place in Regent Street to which we went, and the sumptuous dinner we were served with there. The old man told me his name was Egbert Elvesham, the great philosopher, whose name I had known since I was a lad at school. He watched me drink and eat with a touch of envy. "What a capacity for living you have," he said. "And I have a future, thanks to you," I said. "But you have a past," I went on. "Such a past as is worth all my future." "Would you in truth change it?" he said. The waiter came in with liqueurs. "Would you indeed willingly take my years?" "With your achievement," I said gallantly. He smiled. "Kummel," he said to the waiter, and turned his attention to a little paper pack he had taken from his pocket. Here is a scrap of my unpublished wisdom." He opened the packet with his shaking yellow fingers and showed a little pinkish powder on the paper. "This, well, you must guess what it is. But Kummel, put but a dash of this powder in it, becomes Himmel. So heavenly it is transformed." His large greyish eyes watched mine with an inscrutable expression. He parted the powder between the little glasses and held out his hand towards me. I imitated his action. "To a quick succession?" said he, and raised his glass. "Not that," I said hastily. He paused, his eyes blazing into mine. "To a long life," said I. "To a long life," said he, with a sudden bark of laughter, and we tilted the little glasses. As I drained the stuff off, I seemed to feel an actual physical stirring in my skull. It seemed to last an interminable time. At last he broke the spell. "Well?" he said. "It's glorious," said I, though I had not tasted the stuff. He pulled out his watch. 11:07, Waterloo. I must go at once." He called for the bill, and in another moment I was wishing him good-bye. "That stuff," he said, "I ought not to have given it to you. It will make your head split tomorrow. Wait a minute. Here." He handed me a little flat thing like a Sedlitz powder. "Take that in water as you're going to bed. Not till you are ready to go to bed, mind." With a whirling brain, I walked home. I remember the walk vividly, and as I was walking up Regent Street, I found in my mind a queer persuasion that it was Waterloo Station. I was oddly muddled. 30 years ago, thought I, it was here I quarrelled with my brother. Then I burst out laughing. 30 years ago I did not exist, and never in my life had I boasted a brother. But the poignant regret for that lost brother still clung to me. Along Portland Road, the madness took another turn. I began to recall vanished shops, and to compare the street with what it used to be. I went on through Euston Road to Tottenham Court Road, puzzled and a little frightened, and scarcely noticed the unusual way I was taking, for commonly I used to cut through the intervening network of back streets. I turned into University Street to discover that I had forgotten my number. Only by a strong effort did I recall 11A, and even then it seemed to me that it was a thing some person had told me. I tried to steady my mind by recalling dinner, but for the life of me I could conjure up no picture of my host's face, and in his place I had a curious exterior vision of myself, sitting at a table, flushed, bright-eyed and talkative. "I must take this other powder," said I. "This is getting impossible." At first glance, my room seemed unfamiliar. I felt an idiotic persuasion that I was in a railway carriage, that I was peering out of the window at some unknown station. I tossed the powder into a glass and drank it off. Thereupon I must have fallen asleep. I woke abruptly. There was a curious taste in my mouth, a tired feeling in my limbs. With an effort, I peered about me at the dark, and I began to perceive something unfamiliar. Had the bed turned round? Yonder should be the bookshelves, and something shrouded and pallid rose there. I was now thoroughly awake, and beginning to realize I was in a strange room. The dim, pallid outline I perceived was a window. I stood up, and was surprised by a curious feeling of weakness and unsteadiness. With trembling hands outstretched, I walked slowly towards the window, and I found myself looking out upon a scene that was altogether strange to me. Then occurred a thing so trivial and yet so terrible that I shiver now to think of it. I said, "How the devil did I get here?" And the voice was not my own. I ran one hand over the other and felt loose folds of skin, the bony laxity of age. I thrust my fingers in my mouth, and my teeth had gone. Trembling horribly, I tottered to the glass and saw Elvesham's face. I was indeed an old man. For some time I must have been stunned at this change that had come upon me. It was daylight when the diabolical ingenuity of Elvesham came home to me. That as I found myself in his, so he must be in possession of my body. Of my strength, that is, and my future. No one will believe my frantic assertions. I am treated as one demented, and even at this moment I am under restraint. But I am sane, absolutely sane. I am a young man locked away in an old man's body. Naturally I appear demented to those who will not believe this. Naturally I do not know the names of my secretaries, of the doctors who come to see me, of my servants and neighbours, of this town, wherever it is, where I find myself. Naturally I ask the oddest questions. Naturally I weep and cry out and have paroxysms of despair. I was a healthy youngster, with all life before me. Now I am a furious old man, unkempt and desperate, watched, feared and avoided as a lunatic by everyone about me. And in London is Elvesham beginning life again in a vigorous body. He has stolen my life. One desperate experiment I am about to try. This morning, with the help of a table knife that I had secreted at breakfast, I succeeded in breaking open a secret drawer in a writing desk. I discovered nothing save a little green glass phial containing a white powder. Round the neck of the phial was a label, and thereon was written one word: release. The powder appears to be soluble in water. The taste is not unpleasant. There the narrative found upon Mr. Elvesham's desk ends. His dead body was found lying between the desk and the chair. There remains only one curious fact to record. When Elvesham committed suicide, Eden was, strangely enough, already dead. 24 hours before, he had been knocked down by a cab and killed.
The story of the late Mr. Elvesham by H.G. Wells was read by David McAlister, abridged by Madge Hart and produced by Pat McLaughlin. Tomorrow's story is called The Temptation of Haringey, who's a person, not a council.
BBC Radio 4 Extra.
Now, from 1975.